Want a little plein air in your life? Need it bad? I mean really bad? Why not fake it? Fake it till you make it. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Mind of Watercolor. What the heck are you talking about now, Steve? Well look, not all of us can go out and paint plein air every day whenever we want to. So I've been playing around with the idea of doing some fake or mock plein air, and that just simply means putting something up on a television screen. Now just about every flat screen TV today has a USB input. You can just put one of those little USB thumb drives in there, and if you stick some JPEGs on there, you can go through them on your TV. The TV's in our house, and I have a monitor right here in my studio I use to see what my shots are looking like, but I also use it to put photos up that I'm painting. It's a good way to pretend that you're on location. Get out your plein air supplies and just, it's a good way to do a dry run. So that's what I'm doing today. But basically, I'm going to do a line and wash of a cabin, a historical cabin at a place called Brattonsville, which is near here, about an hour's drive away here in South Carolina. Really neat kind of historical place. A lot of great buildings for painting subjects. I've always wanted to go back and do some plein air, but I did get a lot of photos. And I'm going to use this brown gel pen, which was one of the favorites out of my last review. If you saw that brown gel pen showdown, this was one of them. This is the Uniball Signo. This is the 0.38 millimeter, and I liked the color, liked the way it drew. And so this is going to be my ink. It does loosen up a little in water, but not enough to really matter for an ink and wash sketch or painting. Everybody give it up for my studio partner, Reese. Oh, you like the idea, huh? Mock plein air with a TV screen? I guess you would, since you usually don't venture outside. I remember, you have a bit of an aversion to squirrels. Alright, so let me show you how I'm setting this up. Now, this is a monitor that I use basically to monitor my shots. I can monitor my head and shoulder shots or my overhead shots. But in this case, I'm using it for photo to do this mock location sketching. Most TVs today have a USB input. So I have put some photos on a USB, and I'm going to choose this photo. It was a colonial and later site of settlers like in the 1800s, and a lot of great buildings here. So what I'm doing is mock location sketching, and this is a great way to practice. In fact, this screen is kind of small. If you have a big TV, man, people today have got 60 and larger inch. Most of those large flat screen TVs, or any flat screen TVs, will let you input USB photos. So you can go down to your living room and sit and essentially just pretend that you're on location sketching. And that's what I'm going to do here today. Since this is practice for me, I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in with a pen. You don't have to do that. And if I were on location, I would probably pencil it out first. But this is going to be rough practice for me, and I just like practicing, going directly with a pen. So I'm just going to get started, and a lot of times if I have a pen, I just sort of start dot plotting my elements. You can keep it light and faint. Now gel pens are not great at being able to do light lines, not as much as a pencil or a ballpoint pen, but you can do it to a certain extent. Whenever I do stuff like this, that's urban sketching, get the major shapes first, and you work your way down to the minor shapes. In complex things, like in this case there's a split rail fence, I will just kind of indicate where the ribbon of the fence is and not the details of the rails yet. So I've more or less plotted out where the building's going to be, and I can go back and add details. So now I'm plotting out about where the split rail fence is. Again, a faint dot indication of where some of the trees are. Okay, I think that's the major elements, so we're just going to begin detailing them now. Now, when you're drawing in the field and it involves a perspective like on a building, you just have to kind of estimate. And a lot of times I'm holding my pen up on the scene and then kind of getting an idea of the angle and coming down and applying that angle to what I see. You can't do all kinds of complicated vanishing points and stuff on location, but you can like get a bottom angle, sort of a mid angle, and a top angle, and then you just kind of graduate between them as you go, meaning that this angle changes and goes this way as you get to the bottom. This one up here is more acute and changes and gets this way, and in my scene here, this right here is the straight area, and everything kind of gets everything kind of flares away from it as you go. So perspective is just kind of a guessing thing, and you know, I don't put in a lot of detail, like for instance on depending on what the values are going to be, and this roof needs to be light, this side of the building needs to be light. I'll put in a few lines to suggest detail, and I'll tend to put in shadow areas, I'll tend to put more like boards. And I'll probably be, since this is a very light facade here, I'll probably detail very few of the bricks on this side and more in the shadows here. You know, generally with line and wash, you can do varying amounts of detail in the line, but in this case I'm trying to give more detail to the line so that the wash will just be more a coloring exercise. And you can start hatching in some of the shadows if you want. You don't have to, you can put those tones in with watercolor. It's just all according to what you want to do. And I also forgot to add this door. That's the problem with ink, is I can't erase that now, but that's alright. Let's practice. I'm going to go ahead and add some shadow hatching to this doorway, even though I'll be putting a lot of the darkness in with watercolor probably. I think I'm going to go ahead and use a water brush to simulate that I was in the field. Not that I would be using a water brush, but I very well might be, and with line and wash I do. And I'm going to use the water solubility of this ink. It does slightly re-wet to just tone areas, and that gives me tone and helps me define where the shadows are going to be. It also sets that ink in, so I can go back over it with color. Now we're going to work on these split rails, and where they join you've got kind of a tight stack formation. So it's a challenge of how to suggest those split rails without getting extremely detailed. So I'm just going to hint at those stacks, and then we'll get a little bit more definition in there with color. So that's a pretty good hint that those are split rails. You can almost get kind of a lighter shade of the ink by turning the pen on your side. You can do that much more successfully with ballpoint pen, but it does work to a degree with gel pen. Yeah, I think I'm getting these rails nicely hinted. Basically just, again, barely hinting at those crisscross things, and I can see a bit of a shadow underneath them, so just indicating where that is. That sticks out to the eye, and I'm getting very close to being able to put color on this. I'll probably I want to strengthen some of the more definite lines over here. You can see a lot of dark crevices between these logs, but they're very irregular. You know, a lot of this stuff is just judgment. It's not formulas or tricks. It's just how can I suggest that, but at the same time, you know, give the feeling of really being in the scene. And this is a really nice color ink, I think. The trick is going to be getting these split rails back here to stand out against a dark green background. And I may have to touch that up with white gel pen. Alright, let's get some color in here. I've been playing around with my Schmincke palette lately. Trying it out, getting to know it. So I'm using Schmincke paint. I'm going to treat this fairly flat, I think, so I can paint around these rails. And keep it kind of easy. A lot of stuff like this, especially with urban sketching, even though this is not a city sketch, it's a historical location, I think it qualifies as urban sketching. It's just a very perspective, technical kind of subject. But a lot of the painting in this kind of a scenario is just problem solving. And journal sketching, urban sketching, which is usually for journals, is very loose and suggestive. So that's kind of the goal. Some people do urban sketching very cartoony, and they just want an indication, even if it's more an iconic indication of the things they've done, the experiences they've been through, and the places and things that they have seen. Most of you are familiar probably with Tio Yichi's channel, and he takes that approach. It's a very, I would call it a kind of a caricature style. It's very effective at quickly getting the viewer the idea, the essence of where he's been, what he's experienced and seen. Me, I'm kind of wired to do things a little more realistically, but I still have to employ a lot of suggestion. Well, I'm getting close to being done, and I think now I'm just going to go through and strengthen some of the line with the pen again, just to get it to pop in places. Sometimes it's difficult when you add washes to know what's going to show through and what's not. When you get color down, it's easier to see, and since it's got a line and wash feel, it feels right for me to just kind of go through and pop in a few details after the fact. That's not uncommon with line and wash. And I'm just going to hint at some shingles up here with a bit of a dotted line. Just to add some little dynamic dark points here, just to strengthen the idea of this these split rails in the background. And I think I'm pretty happy with that as a line and wash journal sketch. I know if I were on location, I would be pretty happy with that. So it's a little easier back in the studio, but still, it's, I think, a valuable exercise to kind of go through, especially if you're not real familiar or comfortable with sketching on location. If nothing else, it helps you work out your supplies and what you have with you and whatnot. Well, I think we're going to go with this. I am popping in just tiny little highlights here and there, mainly in corners and places with the white gel pen. I really didn't, I was kind of pleased I didn't need to do much over here with the split rails. Just in a couple places, and I even drew in some very faint ones in the back. So nice little souvenir of that location that I was at, and I'm happy with the process. Hopefully we can translate this well to actually being on location. Thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something and got some ideas. Maybe you want to practice some location mock plein air in your living room on your TV or with a photo or something. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing, everyone. Thank you to my patrons for sponsoring me and these episodes, and we will see everybody in the next video.